Welcome to the Untold, where the darkest stories come to life. Prepare yourself for the terrifying, the chilling, and the unexplainable. This is where fear finds its voice. In the heart of Istanbul, there's a place where the dead don't rest. Innovia Forcitisi, a building abandoned, forgotten, but never at peace. Shadows move, whispers echo, and something dark waits to claim those who dare to uncover its secrets. Would you survive what's lurking in the dark? Comment, like, and subscribe if you want to hear more, because the horrors of Innovia 4 are just beginning. They say some places are cursed, that once the darkness takes hold, it never lets go. There are places in this world that no one should ever enter. Buildings abandoned, forgotten by time. But sometimes the past refuses to stay buried, and so when it does, the horrors of what happened never fade. They linger in the walls, in the very air you breathe, waiting for the right moment to remind you of what you shouldn't have disturbed. Deep in the heart of Istanbul, there sits a place like no other. Innovia 4, Sitesi, located in Esenyurt district of Istanbul. Once, it was meant to be a shining beacon of modern living. 9 towering buildings, each one crafted for families. But the dream of a perfect community was shattered in a night of unimaginable horror. What happened there, what truly happened, changed everything. The buildings are no longer filled with the sounds of laughter or the joy of children. Instead, they echo with something far worse, a silence that suffocates, a darkness that consumes. The lights in the windows don't shine, and the walls no longer protect. They imprison, they haunt. This is the story of Innovia 4, a place where spirits and shadows linger, where every creak of the floorboards is a warning, a threat, a place where the past is still very much alive, and it's angry. But this isn't just a haunted building. No, this is a place that holds secrets darker than you can imagine, a place where something never left, a place that will make you think twice before you ever dare step foot in another abandoned structure again. What if I told you the darkness in Innovia 4 is not finished yet? What if it's waiting for you? Are you brave enough to uncover the truth, or are you just another soul destined to be lost in its walls? Innovia 4 was supposed to be a dream, a beacon of hope for families, a place where life would thrive, full of laughter and joy. Designed to be a modern family residence, it was meant to be a thriving community. 9 luxurious buildings, towering above the city, each one promising a bright future for its residents. But little did they know, this place would soon become the birthplace of nightmares. From the outside, Innovia 4 was a vision of beauty. Sleek, modern, and full of promise. But deep within those walls, something darker was already stirring. Something waiting to be unleashed. It was supposed to be a place where families could start fresh, where lives could unfold in peace. But instead, it became a place where the worst kind of tragedy would unfold, one that would never be forgotten. In one of those unfinished apartments, a horror unimaginable took place. A mother, her 8-year-old son, and her 5-year-old daughter, brutally murdered, stripped of life, their blood staining the very floors that were meant to be their home. The laughter of children, replaced by the screams of terror, the building, meant to be a symbol of hope, became a site of death, a stain on the city's soul. And just like that, the dream of Innovia 4 was shattered, gone, vanished, never to return. The owner, once proud of his vision, was left with nothing. The bloodshed that had occurred within those walls left him broken. His dreams crumbled just like the very buildings he built. The tragedy was too much for him to recover from. Bankrupt, destroyed. The man who once saw future residents filling those apartments now saw only shadows lingering in the halls. And so, Innovia 4 was abandoned. The 9 towering structures, once meant to house families, now stood empty. Lifeless, but they weren't empty for long. The locals knew. They could feel it. Innovia 4 had become more than just an abandoned building. It was a place where death had claimed its mark. A place where the living feared to tread. And those who dared to enter found themselves never quite the same. Whispers spread across Istanbul about what happened there. Some spoke of strange noises, footsteps, in the dead of night, screams echoing from within the walls, cries of children carried on the wind. Some said they heard laughter, but it wasn't real laughter. It was hollow, unnatural, like the sound of something twisted trying to mock the living and still. There were others who claimed to see shadows flickering behind the windows of Innovia 4. The faint outline of figures moving in and out of sight. Figures that shouldn't have been there at all. What could it mean? What drove a man to destroy his dreams and the family he was supposed to protect inside those walls? What turned this place from a modern wonder into a living nightmare? And why, after all these years, does it still hold on to its tragic past? Some say the building is cursed. Others say the spirits of the family are trapped there, forever unable to escape the horrors of their final moments. But what if it's something darker than that? What if it's not just the ghosts of the past that haunt Innovia 4? What if something far worse is waiting to be unleashed? When the past refuses to stay buried, it comes back. And sometimes it comes back with a vengeance. The question is, will you ever be able to escape Innovia 4 if you step inside? The abandonment of Innovia 4. Innovia 4 had been left to rot, an empty shell of its former self. The once promising buildings that were supposed to be homes for families now stood silent and cold. Their windows, once filled with light and laughter, were dark, their glass cracked and shattered. The walls, which were supposed to hold memories of new beginnings, now seemed to groan with the weight of forgotten horrors. For years, no one dared approach the abandoned complex. The once beautiful structures were now decaying husks, the echoes of the past fading away into a chilling stillness. The gates were rusted, the grass overgrown, and the air carried a bitter chill, as if the very land itself had rejected the place. Locals, those who lived nearby, were the first to notice the strange things happening at Innovia 4. Whispers spread like wildfire across the city. Some claimed they heard footsteps in the night, footsteps that didn't belong to anyone living. Others spoke of screams, distant, high-pitched cries, sharp enough to send a shiver down your spine. It was as if the air around the buildings hummed, with an unnatural energy, one that could not be ignored. And then it started, the shadows. At first, people thought they were just figments of their imagination, but as the years passed, the stories grew darker. Some claimed they saw figures flickering through the windows, pale faces peering out from the dark, their eyes hollow and lifeless. No one could explain it. No one could prove it. But the fear was real, and it wasn't just the windows. The building itself began to change. The floorboards creaked, not from wind or age, but from something else. Something alive. Vibrations echoed through the empty halls, low rumbling sounds that seemed to come from the very foundation of Innovia 4. Walls cracked and groaned as if they were being torn apart by something unseen, something unnatural. Some people who dared get too close could hear the faintest whispers rising from within, like the building itself was calling out to them. And when they looked closer, when they tried to peer through the dirt-caked windows, the shadows inside seemed to move, almost as if the building was alive. The ones who went in, those few brave souls, never came out the same. There were rumors of those who heard the cries of children coming from within the walls, their voices faint but desperate, and others spoke of being followed, of a cold presence that lingered just behind them as they walked through the crumbling halls. It didn't take long for the locals to stop talking about Innovia 4 altogether. The whispers of strange occurrences grew quieter, but the fear remained. You see, not all the stories about Innovia 4 were told aloud. Some were whispered in fear, in hushed tones, as if speaking about it would awaken something worse. What's behind those sounds? Are they the echoes of the past? Or are they something far more sinister? Something that has taken hold of this forsaken place? The truth is, no one really knows. But it didn't stop the rumors from spreading. It didn't stop people from saying that the building was cursed, that something darker was waiting for those foolish enough to enter. The fear of Innovia 4 grew stronger with each passing year. The site wasn't just abandoned, it was feared. People crossed the street to avoid walking near it. Children were told never to play near the gate, and no one dared approach the buildings after dark. There were stories of a cold wind sweeping through the complex, despite there being no wind at all. Stories of lights flickering from the top floors at odd hours, long after the last of the workers had left. And those who dared to venture close enough to hear it, the ones who could stomach the dread, said they could still hear the faint sound of children laughing in the distance. But when they turned around to look, there was nothing there. Just the same desolate, lifeless buildings. Empty. But what if it wasn't just the sounds of children's laughter they were hearing? What if something darker, something much worse, was waiting inside those walls, luring the curious in one by one? As time passed, Innovia 4 became more than just an abandoned site. It became a legend, a cursed place where the living stayed away, and the dead lingered, and no one was brave enough or foolish enough to go near it, except for those few who thought they could unravel the mystery. But the truth is, Innovia 4 was never meant to be understood. Some say it's not just the souls of the murdered family that haunt the place. No, some say the building itself has become something else, something that hungers for the living, something that draws people in only to swallow them whole. But here's the real question. Can a place be cursed, or has Innovia 4 simply become a doorway? Write a comment in the comment box. A doorway to something far worse than any of us could ever imagine. Something that's been waiting in the dark for years The truth about Innovia 4 isn't just a matter of ghost stories. It's something more truly terrifying, something no one has been able to escape. The horror begins. It's one thing to hear the rumors, but it's another to face the horrors of Innovia 4 firsthand. Some were brave or foolish enough, depending on how you look at it, to step into the abandoned building, hoping to uncover the truth. But what they found was far more terrifying than anything they could have imagined. Take Anna, for instance. "I thought it was just stories," she said, her voice quivering. "I was curious, you know. I wanted to see for myself." But what she didn't expect was the feeling of being watched, even when no one was there. I heard footsteps behind me, but when I turned around, there was no one there. Just the silence. A deep, suffocating silence. I felt something. Something that shouldn't have been there. It was like the air itself was alive, pressing down on me, suffocating me. Anna didn't go back to Innovia 4. Not once. And neither did anyone else who had that same feeling. Something about it sticks with you. And then there was Thomas. He thought he could handle it, but he wasn't prepared for the cold. The kind of cold that crawls beneath your skin. It was freezing, he told his friends later, his hands shaking as he spoke. It felt like someone was right behind me, breathing down my neck. I couldn't shake the feeling. I turned around, but there was nothing. Just emptiness. Just shadows that flickered through the dark where no shadows should have been. They weren't like the ones you'd expect from a building long abandoned. No, these shadows moved. They were alive, twitching in the corners of your vision. And when you turned to face them, they were gone. But the worst part, it wasn't the cold. It wasn't the shadows. It was what came after, what followed them home. "I couldn't sleep for weeks," Thomas confessed. "Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them faces. Faces that weren't there when I looked again. They were everywhere. In the dark corners of my room, in the reflection of my window, watching me, waiting. Something followed him from Innovia 4. He couldn't escape it. And then there's Julie. She had the misfortune of venturing in with a group of friends, all of them hoping to capture a glimpse of something, anything that might explain the strange events surrounding the place. "We heard whispers," Julie said, her voice breaking. "At first, we thought it was just the wind. But then, no. It was words. Words that we couldn't understand, like they were coming from all around us, filling the space. We couldn't find where they were coming from." The whispers grew louder, becoming rhythmic, like a chant. A chant that was getting closer, pressing in on them. And that's when they saw them. Figures, people. But not the kind of people you'd expect to see in a building long abandoned. Their faces, they were wrong, Julie stammered. They were stretched, like their skin couldn't hold them anymore. Their eyes were bulging, crawling out of their heads. At that moment, Julie and her friends bolted, rushing out of the building, their hearts pounding, their legs shaking, as the whispers followed them into the night. They didn't leave unscathed. "Something came back with me," Julie whispered. Don't know what it was, but every night I hear it. The whispers. They won't leave me alone. And it wasn't just Julie. Several others who entered Innovia 4 came out with the same haunting experiences. Visions, voices, and something that followed them home, attaching itself to them in ways they couldn't explain. What happened in Innovia 4 wasn't just something that could be brushed off as a bad dream or an overactive imagination. It followed them. It followed them in ways that couldn't be understood, lingering just beyond the edge of the light, where things move when they shouldn't. The fear never left them. One man, George, would later admit that his nights were never the same. "I woke up in a panic," he recalled. "I felt something around my neck, like cold hands tightening. I gasped for air, but when I reached up, there was nothing there. Nothing except the dark." The terror of Innovia 4 wasn't just in the building. It didn't end when you left. It followed you. Like a shadow, it clung to your soul, feeding on your fear. What really happened to these people? Why were they so scared? It wasn't just the emptiness of Innovia 4. No, it was something else. Something that latched onto them the moment they crossed its threshold. What if it's not just a building that's haunted? What if it's something worse? Something that doesn't let go. These people didn't just experience fear. They experienced something else that night. And it didn't end when they left the building. And the scariest part, it might not just be confined to Innovia 4. It might be with them forever. The child's voice, a whispered scream. At night, when the world outside Innovia 4 falls silent, the building seems to come alive, but not in the way you'd expect from an abandoned structure. No, there's something much darker at work here. People who've dared to venture near Innovia 4 after dark speak of things that can't be explained. Strange, unearthly things, and one of the most unsettling rumors that has persisted for years is the sound of children. You've heard of haunted places before, right? The eerie creaks of floorboards, the whispers of lost souls. But this is something different. Something that gets under your skin and crawls into your bones. Some claim to hear the laughter of children echoing through the halls, bouncing off the decaying walls. Laughter, but it's wrong. It's not playful or innocent. There's a sharpness to it, a high-pitched, eerie sound that makes your blood run cold, and it doesn't stop when you call out. No, it just continues, growing louder, more frantic, like they're laughing at your fear. And it's not just the laughter, the whispers. They're the worst. Some people say they hear a soft, pleading voice, a mother's voice, calling her child in the empty hallways. "Come back, baby. Please, come back." The words are so clear, so desperate. And you want to turn around. You want to help her. But you know there's no one there. These aren't the sounds of normal people. No, these are the sounds of spirits. Spirits trapped between worlds. Still calling out, still lingering, desperate to find their way back. But then there are the feelings, the cold, the undeniable bone-chilling cold that hits you when you step into those halls, and it's not the kind of cold that's from an open window or a draft. No, this cold moves with purpose. It clings to you, wrapping itself around your body like a suffocating shroud. Some say it's the cold touch of a hand, small, delicate, but uncomfortably icy, brushing across their skin, tugging at their sleeves, as though trying to pull them into the shadows. And here's the thing, it doesn't stop there. The tugging, the pulling, It's like something is trying to drag you deeper into the dark corners of Innovia 4, into the very heart of its cursed history. You'll feel it on your shoulder, on the back of your neck. Sometimes it's just a tug at your sleeve, but if you're unlucky, it's worse. It's fingers, cold fingers, gripping your arm as though trying to drag you away from the safety of the light. And when you turn around, there's nothing, not a soul in sight, just empty rooms, decaying walls, and the weight of the silence pressing down on you. What is it? What's causing this unnatural cold? What's behind those children's voices? Some say it's the spirits of the murdered family, the mother and her children, still trapped in that place, still searching for each other, forever calling out in the night. But then, there's another theory. What if it's not just the family? What if something darker has settled into Innovia 4? Something that doesn't want to let them go. Something that's feeding off the sorrow, the fear, and the restless souls that remain. What if the voices aren't just echoes from the past, but a sign of something that's alive? Something feeding on the fear of anyone who dares to walk those halls. You see, not everyone who enters Innovia 4 comes out with their sanity intact. Some are forever changed. The building doesn't just house the dead. It seems to cultivate the fear, the sorrow, the despair, and that's what it feeds on. And what about the children's laughter? What about the voice of the mother, still calling her child? Those aren't the sounds of simple hauntings. They're the sounds of something alive, something trapped in the walls, feeding on the energy of those who enter, something that's not willing to let the past remain buried. No, it's dragging the past back to life, forcing it to relive its tragedies over and over again. Imagine walking those cold, empty halls, hearing a child's laugh behind you. But when you turn, you're alone. Imagine feeling something tugging at your coat, pulling you toward a shadowed corner. And when you fight against it, when you run, you hear that same voice, soft, tender yet desperate, calling for you. Come back. Would you keep running? Would you leave before it was too late? What if you couldn't? Is it the spirits of the murdered family, still searching for each other in the dark? Or is something darker, much more sinister, lurking inside the walls of Innovia 4, waiting for its next victim? Something that won't let them go. Not ever. The dark presence. Some say Innovia 4 was never just haunted by the spirits of the murdered family. No, it's far worse than that. There's something older, something much older beneath the surface of that cursed ground. The whispers tell a different story. A story no one dares speak aloud. Something ancient, something evil. A presence that was never meant to be disturbed. They say Innovia 4 was built over a land tainted by darkness. A place where, long before the buildings were ever constructed, something ancient lay dormant, and when they broke the earth to build, they woke it. The foundation wasn't just cement and steel. It was built upon an ancient evil that had been sleeping for centuries, waiting for the right moment to awaken. What if the murder wasn't just a tragedy? What if it was a signal, a warning that something had been disturbed, that the land beneath Innovia 4 wasn't just cursed by the tragedy of one family's death, but by something older, a curse that stretched back through time. The blood spilled there might have been, the spark, it awakened something that had been silent for too long. There are stories, rumors, told in hushed voices, passed along in secret. Stories that people don't want to believe, but can't help but fear. Strange symbols have been found, carved into the walls of the abandoned buildings, hidden, almost forgotten, but still there. Symbols that shouldn't exist in this world. They're not from any known language, not from any known culture. Some say they're remnants of an ancient ritual. A ritual that was performed to summon something dark, something evil that was never meant to leave the earth. The spirits of the murdered family? No, they were just the first victims. Something deeper lurks inside Innovia 4. It isn't content with simply haunting the place. It's growing stronger. It's feeding on the fear. It's feeding on the death that still hangs in the air, and it's waiting for the right time to break free from its prison of concrete and steel. Whatever it is, it wants to escape. It's not satisfied with being trapped in those buildings. It wants to stretch its influence beyond those walls, beyond Innovia Castle, until it infects everything. It's waiting for the right moment to break the barriers of this world and spill into the real one. And every day, it gets stronger. It grows with every soul that passes too close to Innovia 4. Every person who feels that chill on the back of their neck, every person who leaves changed. Could Innovia 4 be a gateway to something worse? Something that's been asleep for centuries, waiting for the moment to return. A force too powerful, too ancient for us to comprehend? What if the curse of Innovia 4 isn't just the spirits of the family? What if they're just the messengers? And if they are, who or what are they warning us about? The darkness isn't just confined to the building. It's growing, it's spreading. And every time you hear a scream echoing through the halls of Innovia 4, know this: it's not the past haunting us. It's the beginning of something far, far worse. Something ancient. Something that has been waiting for a long, long time. Could Innovia 4 be the doorway to a nightmare? One that will never end. And could you be the next one to step through it? The warnings. So, what's the truth behind Innovia 4? Are the spirits of the family still trapped inside those forsaken walls? Their restless souls endlessly wandering the decaying hallways, crying for release? Or is something much darker at play here? Something older, something that was never meant to be disturbed, waiting, watching, growing stronger with each passing day. The whispers you hear at night, those chilling, distorted voices, they're not just echoes of the past. They're something more. And those nightmares, they're only just beginning, the first signs of something worse. Can you feel it? The tension in the air, thick like smoke, heavy with a presence that doesn't belong. A presence that wants to claim more than just a building. It wants everything. What's really happening in Innovia 4? What's the force behind the strange occurrences? Behind the shadows that move without reason? Behind the doors that creak open on their own? Who or what is causing these terrible events? Who's making the walls bleed, the floors tremble, and the windows crack with such unnatural force? Why can't the dead just leave in peace? Why do they linger in the darkness, bound to this place like ghosts trapped in their own personal hell? What dark force is pulling them back? Is it the twisted souls of the murdered family? or something older, something more malevolent, more dangerous. The truth is hidden beneath the layers of dust, decay, and dread, and there's still so much more to uncover. Trust me, you've barely scratched the surface. The story of Innovia 4 is far from over. The worst is yet to come. There are things inside those buildings waiting, things that will make your blood run cold. You've heard the whispers, the eerie sounds, the cold touch of the dead. But what if I told you that there's much worse waiting in the shadows? What if I told you that you haven't even begun to feel the full weight of what Innovia 4 holds? Remy, you ready to face the truth? Or will you run screaming into the night, hoping that whatever's lurking in those halls doesn't come after you? A chilling silence. Would you be brave enough to step inside Innovia 4, knowing that every step you take could be your last? Could you face the silence, the darkness, knowing that it's not truly empty? Knowing that something, someone, is watching your every move? Would you walk through those shattered doors, feeling the cold of death on your skin, listening as something whispers just behind you, urging you to go deeper into the abyss? Would you stay knowing the risks? Or would you run, terrified that once you step into Innovia 4, you'll never escape its grasp? What if you felt the icy breath of a long-dead child brushing against your neck? What if the sound of footsteps echoed behind you, and when you turned, there was no one there? Could you still keep your sanity? Would you scream for help, hoping someone would hear you? Or would you fall silent, knowing that your voice might never escape the walls of that cursed building? Because I'm telling you now, whatever's inside Innovia 4 doesn't care. It doesn't care if you're scared or if you want to leave. It only wants one thing. Chilling pause for a few seconds of eerie silence to create tension. In the next episode, we'll uncover the horrifying truth behind what really lies inside Innovia 4. And I'll tell you this much. What we find will change everything you think you know about this place. You won't want to miss it if you dare to come back.